the breakout room separately. Great. Okay, well, hearing nothing, I will go ahead and share my screen, and I invite anyone to begin and share any reflections you have on any part of the vision statement. And of course, let us know if there's a particular portion you want to dive right in immediately or not. And in the meantime, Sarah and I will be taking some notes so we can keep track of your suggestions.
I think that all of these concepts are good concepts. And it just dawned on me that maybe one is missing, and that's safety.
Great. So public safety?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. It's so interesting when you write this, when you start pulling together these statements, there are multiple iterations. And I think public safety was one that we did flag, but didn't make it into this version. So I'm glad you brought it up because that's certainly something we can weave into this updated version. And James, do you want to just clarify where you think that idea or concept would best be suited?
Public safety in terms of within these existing
Certainly.
I would say healthy community.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to turn to that slide. Great. Does anybody else have any thoughts?
Yeah, I would say it has equal weight within economic opportunity, because yeah, as long as things are balanced in that regard, the social aspects kind of balance out as well.
Right.
I've got a question. This is probably more for you, Anais, but there's so much overlap or potential for overlap between these four categories. For example, I think housing is a really important component to a healthy community. So what's your sort of like general approach for dealing with overlap? Are you trying to sort of keep things parsed out and separate as much as possible? Is some overlap okay? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think some overlap is okay as long as we can track it. And I think the matrix, which I will flip to, kind of starts or helps us start tracking that. Oops, here we are. I think this is helpful, but in terms of the topic areas that are captured in the statements that make up the vision chapter or the vision theme, we can start keeping track of the statewide planning goals that they are attached to. And then, what we have done, in other communities or in other projects is for statewide planning goals that overlap among different comprehensive plan chapters, we kind of denote them as A versus B. So for example, goal 5, which talks about not only historic and cultural resources, but also talks about natural resources and open space, we can parse that out and talk about scenic and historic resources as part, as the first part of goal 5 for healthy communities, and then talk about the second part of goal 5 down in the environment. So we can certainly parse out those topics a little bit, or the statewide planning goals a little bit, in order to account for the overlap that we're certainly going to see among all these different chapters.
I'm sure the same question is going to come up again when we start developing goals and policies.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Is the concept of digital connectivity anywhere here?
Yeah, we noted that in the connected infrastructure. So we talked about access to state-of-the-art communication infrastructure, closing the digital divide. And that's a reflection of the conversation we had or the discussion we had with this PAT group at the last meeting, and the importance of addressing communication infrastructure.
Okay. I know we're not supposed to wordsmith. I almost can't help it.
That's
but,
fine.
And I won't do that.
If you have that, I'm happy to hear any ideas, of course, James.
I just think I think they're very, each one of them are very long.
Okay.
And maybe too long. And they all start off seemingly with an explanation or an excuse, and don't really get right to the aspirational aspect of each concept.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to phrase that, but I appreciate that, James. I was, in my mind, as I read through this too, it felt like we were trying to get everything in there for these areas. And I wonder sometimes if we lose some impact by doing that. And and without wanting to wordsmith, when I originally read this, I got kind of lost in them.
Yeah, is there one in particular that you think could use some finessing?
I'll probably go back to healthy community for a moment. That is that really provides a lot of introduction and a lot of almost apologetic in some ways. It's supposed to be aspirational, so
yeah,
what we wish for. So if we could, what we wish for, but I think this one, all of them have an introduction or an explanation, but this one has more of that.
Certainly. I certainly follow your train of thought, James, and actually very much agree with you. We've had in the different iterations of this draft, we've had ones that are less current conditions focused and aspirational right off the bat, and then other drafts where we've kind of let that go a little bit more. But I do appreciate that feedback, because then that helps us go back to the drawing board a little bit and start teasing out maybe some elements that we dropped off that we might want to reintroduce.
Each one ends with the in 2040 Oregon cities, blah, 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 which I like, but you could consider flipping those to the front of each statement and get that, because that's kind of your really concise impact statement. You could put it first. I guess something to consider.
That's a good idea.
Does anybody want me to flip to any of the other slides?
Yeah, flip to the slides with the list of goals on them.
Oh, this one?
Yeah. So I was also looking through the statewide planning goals, and I don't know if it's already being addressed with the Willamette Falls Legacy Project, but we don't have anything in here addressing the Willamette River Greenway.
Oh my goodness, you are so right. Thank you. The Willamette River Greenway is certainly a statewide planning goal that applies to Oregon City. Good eye, Sage. Let me just make a note of that.
Is that 14?
Goal 15.
Goal 15.
Goal 15. Thank you.
Good catch.
Yeah, really good catch. And Sage, do you think that would make the most sense under protected environment?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you for flagging that. I want to make sure we capture all of the applicable goals.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on any of these statements here?
Well, I would like to say that I agree with the statement that it seems too long. I think that a vision statement if somebody is reading the final document, whatever we come up with. I think a vision statement could be 1 page.
Mhm.
I don't think that almost 2 full pages of reading, you'd lose the impact of the vision statement.
I'm taking notes. Don't mean to be looking away.
Please look at resilient economy one more time.
Okay. Your wheelhouse, James.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think in this one you actually would start. I agree with Sarah once again, that the last statement is a good starting.
Yeah, okay.
It's a good start. And then probably it may be a good idea to not necessarily refer to a specific project, because the vision statement should be evergreen, and sometimes projects change.
Do you think
Same.
there's interest? Oh, sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I would say maybe the same for calling out specific events or destinations for kind of similar reasons.
Yeah.
I will play devil's advocate a little bit here and see what people think. But I also feel like calling out specific places and events, and maybe it's not the Willamette Falls Legacy Project, but a nod to this very large project also helps give the vision statement a little bit more teeth, and makes it feel less more like Oregon City, and reads less like everybody else's vision statement. I think sometimes these vision statements, because they're so broad and so aspirational, if you start taking out the things that really are Oregon City specific, then they start sounding like everyone else's vision statements. But I'm just playing devil's advocate because we've also kind of toyed with that idea, to what extent do we call things out and to what extent do we not? And I think we also, calling things out also plays homage to the things that were said during our outreach, the places, the ideas, the events that people talked about when we had our community conversations. And so I think placing some of that language is important just to connect with the community conversations and the online surveys that we did. But I absolutely see both sides of the coin.
Well, I think to address that, maybe it's appropriate to speak to the topography of the community and the natural landscape, which won't change over a millennial, which is unique to Oregon City. But it's okay to. Lots of people all over the world have the same aspirations when it comes to clean water and safe communities and those kinds of things. It's okay to, but there may be, in order to address that uniqueness that you speak of, maybe to speak more of about the topography and maybe a little bit more of the, I would say the topography, because it's a unique topography.
Sure. Okay. Do Chris and Sage, do either of you have any thoughts or feedback on this, that idea?
As far as addressing Oregon City specific projects and aspirations?
Sure, yeah, or anything else, but yeah.
Yeah, I would say what I do like about this document is that maybe this was just me kind of projecting my priorities, but it feels like these statements were written in kind of a weighted fashion where like the things that have the highest priority go towards the top.
Okay.
I at least felt that way in the environmental statement, which is kind of more my wheelhouse. You know, priority number one was climate action plan. Everything else is just secondary to that, you know, all kind of contributing towards the same thing.
Yeah, okay.
I think as long as those bold actions are called out and put towards the front, the document overall just feels like it has more weight.
Can you repeat that last part, Chris? So what were you suggesting? In order to give it more weight, or to
basically to prioritize the statements here, because there's so much material, it's almost kind of hard to not just list things.
certainly.
Yeah, so to keep these snippets poignant, you know, I think it's important to put the most prioritized action forward. And not necessarily that everything is in support of that, but it just, you know, that is what's important to us. That's what we put, you know, in front of our language, in front of our intent.
That's great feedback. Thank you, Chris. Would you say that in this protected environment section, that the statements here don't necessarily align with the priorities that you heard through the visioning and outreach and the PAT discussion?
I'd have to scan it real quick.
Yeah.
From what I heard earlier, it's very much in alignment. You know, I'd say it might even be worth, you know, kind of lauding the successes that we've had in spaces like Kenema Bluffs and Knoll Creek Canyon.
Okay.
And rather than, you know, say that you could use language to say that you could strengthen the successes of the past. That sort of thing would be my suggestion.
Great.
Speaking of topography, this is loaded with topography.
I know, this is the section where we talk about topography. But we also talk about topography when speaking about the elevator in the connected infrastructure piece.
Another thought, and this is probably more like formatting logistics, but a way, you know, there's probably some visual ways to keep these statements somewhat long, but have the first, you know, 2 or 3 sentences be the key points, the priorities that you want to make, and they're bold or they're big, and then there's some like subtext basically.
Yeah.
That's some of the detail, so that if someone's scanning through the document, these sentences jump out and those are the ones they're going to read, and if they want to read more they can, and if they don't they can move on. So you can do a lot visually with kind of making things pop out and helping people understand that those are the key points. So that'd be another thing to consider if you didn't want to, you know, cut all the language down.
Great, thanks for that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I would support that. Again, I think that the narrative, just looking at it right now, it feels like a lot. And I'm thinking back to my newspaper classes back in college, where you wanted to make sure that you assume people weren't going to read past the first sentence or two, and you wanted to make sure those were the strongest. But dividing it up, or, you know, looking at it, maybe bulleting or you know, having some subsections or something like that would be a lot more visually. I'd be more likely to read through it then.
Great. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, I would say use the color scheme that you've established to create bold words.
Yeah.
And embolden, I would say probably the values. I would pick out the words that express the values that you're going for, rather than actions.
Thanks, Chris. Bob LaSalle, I think you had your hand up at one point, and I'm sorry that I missed it.
I'm sorry, I butted in there and then I forgot to remove my hand.
Any comments or thoughts? I'm just aimlessly clicking through these 4 slides, so my apologies if it's hard to stop me if you want to go somewhere else. We have about 3 more minutes left. I have some notes that I can walk us through in our report back. But before I do that, I just do want to keep it open for a little bit longer.
I think there might be a typo under resilient economy. Not that
Yeah.
we're nitpicking right now, but
Yeah, no, there is. I noticed another typo as well elsewhere.
it's the sentence starting with visitors come to Oregon City.
Yeah,
You saw that? Okay.
I did. And there was another one as well that I'd have to find. We missed an and. Oh, well, that was this one. Yeah.
I would say under the slide about the things that we love about Oregon City, I don't know if the pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure comment under there really applies to Oregon City currently.
Are you talking about the notation, the bulleted list of feedback that we got from outreach?
Yeah.
Okay. So we did have folks comment on just generally pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure, but then we also had folks talk about different options available by bike or walk or walking for, you know, what we want to see in the future.
Yeah.
Are you saying, Sage, that you didn't hear too much of that in your own discussions?
I wasn't really able to have a whole lot of discussions, but from like my own personal walking around and trying to ride around Oregon City, I would say the infrastructure is not really there.
Mm-hmm. But maybe in 2040 there will be infrastructure.
Yeah, I'm saying it still belongs in like what we want to see. I'm just saying it's not really there, and now
so we have a lot of work to do.
What? Yeah.
I hear you. We have about 40 seconds left. I was just going to run quickly through my notes and you can let me know whether or not I've captured everything. We talked about including public safety as a concept. We talked about how this feels rather long overall as a vision statement, but maybe there's opportunity to bold certain statements within the paragraph. Potentially moving the last sentence of each paragraph up and having it be the first sentence of each paragraph to really make sure that these stay aspirational rather than descriptive. The healthy community statement needs potentially some more work to make it feel a bit more aspirational. We had a conversation about whether or not to refer to specific places and projects. And I don't know if we landed on how we actually felt about that, but I'll at least note that we had that discussion. We did, James, you did say that it is okay to have those similar. Just as I was reporting back to my own breakout room, we got cut off. Usually they have in the breakout rooms, they have a little, you have 30 seconds left, but that didn't happen in our room. So I don't know if it happened in yours. Apologies for the abrupt shift, and we're back at it. We don't have, oh, Pete, you are on mute.
Okay, in my breakout room, we only really dealt with the first 2, so we didn't deal with the last 2.
Okay.
But I asked my group to send me their comments on those via email.
Excellent. Pete, do you want to report back to the other group or to all of us about what you guys discussed, at least on the first 2?
Yeah, and I'll feel free to, Mike, to chime in because you're very eloquent and I might need to draw on you, but healthy communities. So concern here that by mentioning only 3 tribes, we discount all the others. So we either, you know, if you do 3, you have to do the all, or we have to, you know, say that there are numerous important, several important tribes in the region. Denise may mention that the Grand Ronde Master Plan on page 5 lists many tribes that are found in the region. It would be a good resource. So, and then the birthplace, the sentence as the birthplace of the blah, blah tribes and the end of the Oregon Trail is a little bit weird. Just, it should say the site of the end of the Oregon Trail. So we need to wordsmith that sentence a little bit. They definitely feel, our group felt we're on the right track. Mike has some concerns previously in the last meeting and with the adjectives that we're using in our headings, because healthy can mean different things to different people. While it's wordy, it's good because it gets to the essence and the meat of what goes into a healthy community. There is a concern for the term communities plural, because we are one community, but we are made up of many different groups. So we need to be careful of how we value the word community. Let's see. We need to have more emphasis on the arts plural. So music, art, sculpture, all those arts. And then I think, Mike, do you want to speak briefly to what you said about having a beginning sentence?
Yeah, you know, this is wordy, but it's important, and everything in here I think is great. But I think for people who may be coming at this at the 10,000 foot level, I think we need to right at the start get at what the essence of it is. And I know when you wrote this, it looks like the last sentence was intended to kind of put a bow on it. But on most of these, I think the last sentence would be the best first sentence because it really sets the tone. Healthy communities, Oregon City's communities are a place of vitality, support, and opportunity. And then all the other points here support that idea. And Denise suggested, and I think it's a great idea, and I'd like to see it, that most of these sentences become a separate bullet point underneath that kind of opening organizing phrase, if you will, so that it's a little easier for people to understand and maybe they can get a little more bite-sized chunks out of it. Mm-hmm. And on most of these statements, there's a sentence either at or near the end that really does a good job, I think, of getting to the essence of it.
Right. So really appreciate the sentiments about the houseless and the homeless community being part of our neighbors. And there is a need also to mention youth and having enriching activities and places for youth. And then we have a hospital and we also have, medical health to address too. So preventative care and that kind of thing, and the supportive environment that makes up a healthy body. We wanted to talk about that more. Heidi, do I have that correctly? Okay. Then on to resilient economy. So I think the first thing here is that resilient can mean, Rich has made this great point, it's like it was once defined as bouncing back from defeat. So those are the bad times. Is that really what you want? This is a philosophical discussion about what a good economy is. Some people feel like a good economy is one that is growing and growth is everything for them. Other people feel that growth is the problem because it creates things that overwhelm and potentially damage other aspects of your community. So there needs to be a discussion about what a good economy means. It's not clear where we are in the statement with our desire to grow and manage growth. So we're talking about a balance that's struck there. Resilient may not be quite the right word here. I think when you think about it in terms of infrastructure, we talk about the need for measured, sustainable, adequate infrastructure that keeps pace with the growth of the community so that we don't have gaps and problems and congestion and parts of the community that are not served. So that's important. And then there was a statement that the last sentence here could be moved to the front. In 2040, Oregon City's economy is vibrant, diversified, and resilient. We need to think of ourselves as a small town with access to larger amenities in the greater metro region, but also that we have amenities here in the city so that we can work here and live here, not just be a bedroom community. Aging in place is a really important thing, and we're glad that's mentioned. And then we also need to emphasize tourism, and particularly how our historic assets impact tourism. And then we have a plug to add summer concerts to the activities list.
Great. Thank you, Pete. Appreciate
Okay.
it. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's it. That's as far as we got. Unless anybody.
That's okay. That's a lot of content. Appreciate it. Before I report back, Denise, did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to say, I don't think what we meant in our group was we wanted to take each of these paragraphs ends in 2040, and I don't think we said take that sentence and put it at the top. I believe it was a different sentence, because I think that,
okay, sorry. Yeah.
That one that says in 2040, whatever it says after, is kind of like the other bookend from the sentence that we were talking about at the top. And I think what we were talking about, there was a different, I sent Rochelle a note. I said, which sentence in this one were you talking about? Because it wasn't the last one. So I thought it was a different sentence in this paragraph that you wanted to put at the top.
Rochelle, do you want to respond?
Rochelle?
Yeah, I think with this one, I did like the last one, but I agree what you were saying, Denise, like it doesn't necessarily have to be in 2040, but maybe the sentence you're thinking is in that the previous one, there was the sentence that you both had highlighted. Is that what the one you're talking about?
No, I was talking about the resilient economy one. That's the one I thought you were saying.
No, I did. Yeah, I did like the Oregon City's economy is vibrant, diversified, and resilient. And then I thought that could lead to the rest of the meat of the vision statement. So.
Okay. Good.
Right.
Thanks for clarifying.
Thank you. So that's great because we also had some similar ideas as well. Let's see, I'll start with that, I guess. We also kind of, our reaction, or the group's reaction was it felt rather lengthy, but there are some ideas for how we might want to either make it look less lengthy and or highlight some key ideas. So there was an idea of first of all, that the vision statement should be more than a page. So make sure that it fits on a page, that each of the statements should definitely start with more of an aspirational statement rather than more of an explanatory statement. There is opportunity. Maybe what we do is we bold the first statement or the first sentence or two, kind of giving the broad overall idea for each of these chapters right up front, and then keep the rest of the text unbolded. So just maybe creating a bit of a visual hierarchy of information would help with the readability of the vision statement. There's also a suggestion of prioritizing the statements within the paragraphs, which might also just lend itself to that bolding versus unbolded visualization technique. What other things? We thought that public safety was a concept that was missing and could be included in healthy communities or resilient economy. So that was something that we thought was missing. We also discussed as a group moving the last sentence to the beginning of each statement. So really kind of tying in with that idea of making the first sentence or the first statement really aspirational right off the bat. Then we also had some discussion, I don't know exactly where we landed, about the use of using really specific terms versus not. So calling out specific events and destinations versus not talking about specific events and destinations and places. There are pros and cons to either. I don't know if we as a group really fell in one direction versus another on that, but it was certainly something we talked about. Let's see what other, and if anybody from my group remembers other things we discussed that I'm not mentioning, please feel free to chime in here. I'm looking at the list.
Inclusion of statewide goal 15.
Oh yeah, thanks. Sage had noted in our little matrix that identify the topic areas to be covered in each of the chapters and then the statewide planning goals. Sage noted that we were missing statewide planning goal 15, which is the Willamette Greenway, and that one does apply to Oregon City and just wasn't identified in the matrix. So thank you for that.
Good catch.
Yeah. We also had a comment about really emphasizing Oregon City's topography and natural environment, which definitely is spoken to in the protected environment statement here, but was just kind of emphasized as an important concept to help describe Oregon City's uniqueness, or at least portray that idea through this vision statement. Did I miss anything else?
I just want to make sure that our breakout group can comment on the last two because we didn't really have time to get to those. So trying to think of the best way to get those comments to you all.
So Pete, would you welcome folks to submit their written comments to you via email, and then we can compile those?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Does that work for everyone? Okay, thank you. All right, anything else before we kind of close out and talk about our next steps? There's a couple of things coming up that we want to share with you all. Heidi, you had your hand raised.
Oh, I'll raise mine.
It's just a quick collaboration tool that I've used with a couple different groups. The thought exchange, where you put an idea up and then people are able to comment underneath it, or Padlet is the same kind of idea where you can still kind of have ongoing conversations in between our meetings.
Ooh, I like it.
Both of those tools I've used pretty successfully with groups before.
Great. Thought exchange, and what was the other one?
Padlet.
Okay.
I don't know about that.
They're pretty user-friendly.
Yeah, that might be really useful as we start getting into some more technical information, like as we start developing goals and reviewing policies, we might want to employ some other tools to help us work through a lot of that content. So I appreciate that. Mike?
Yeah, and it's just a process question. The wordsmithing part of it, I know Denise has brought that up, and that's something that I've done as well. Should we be doing that on this copy that we have here, or are you going to, before our next meeting, send us a new draft with the input you've gotten tonight, and then we should wordsmith off of that one?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I'll talk a bit about process in a couple slides, but for the time being, I would like you to comment on this draft that you have in front of you. Just to let you know, we're presenting this draft through multiple different avenues, and before making multiple rounds of revisions, we want to compile all of the information together in one place and then make one full revision to the whole statement. So yeah, please use the draft that was given to you in your packets. Thank you. Ray.
Well, I just had a follow-up about the collaboration between meetings. I assume we need to be able to share, emails or names to be able to do that. And so I'm supportive of doing that, but I just wanted to say that may be a barrier to doing online collaboration is we gotta be able to share, our emails or collaborate some way online. So I support it. Just wanted to raise that issue.
Well, I'm more than happy to act as a liaison if people don't want to share their email addresses, because there are some people that don't. But
maybe it's worth posing that question to the group once more just to confirm, because we do have names posted as part of a PAT roster on the OC 2040 website, and so maybe it's worth posing the question one more time to the group just to confirm and see where we can land with some of those platforms.
Okay. Yeah. So my comment was only on the word kayak. I'm a kayaker, but I know that not everyone's a kayaker. So I would say boat.
Love it. Thank you. Okay, any other closing thoughts before we move on to next steps? All right.
Yes.
Oh, Richard.
This is a little off the wall. So there's 4 categories, 4 chapters, and I love all the work you guys have done. I keep thinking, what is Oregon City known for? If you think about Niagara Falls, which I've been there, and the falls it's the hook. It's like what it's about. What's Oregon City known for? What's right at the heart? It's when people think Oregon City, I want to go there because I was thinking about the person who made the comments about tourism. So what is it? Because if we try to be everything to everyone, we become, pablum. So it just makes me wonder if anyone has thoughts or if it would be useful to have an overarching hook that draws people to our city.
It's our history and the #1 visited site in Oregon City. I know people are going to think it's the end of the Oregon Trail. It's actually the elevator.
So that is what it is, and perhaps should be. Or is there a different way to talk about what that hook is? I don't mean to derail you.
No, I love it. Yeah.
I really think that the Willamette Falls, the hook is the trifecta. The Willamette Falls, the elevator, and the end of the Oregon Trail. It's the whole destination. But I think the Willamette Falls is #1, personally.
You can't get to it.
We have said here, the powerful Willamette Falls and the clean Willamette and Clackamas rivers are the jewels of Oregon City. And I think we do speak to the elevator. Oh. Whoops. I think we also do speak to the elevator in one of the first sentences of the infrastructure one. And then we also speak to the end of the Oregon Trail in the second sentence of the first one as well. But yeah, we want to make sure we capture that. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move us along. We have just a few more minutes left, and there's one thing that I did want to ask folks before we end our meeting, or before some of us go off here. But quickly, there's some things coming up. So what is next? We have an online community vision forum that's going to go live next week. It's going to go live next Tuesday, and it'll run for 2 weeks. And the forum is essentially going to be kind of an interactive online website that will provide the opportunity for you can go to the website, you can learn about the OC 2040 process. There'll be a little section on reporting back on what we heard through all the community conversations, all the key themes and the ideas that came through all of our outreach. And then we'll be presenting the draft vision statement and having the ability for folks to comment on each section of the vision statement, tell us what they like, what they don't like about it, etc. So it is essentially a heightened online survey that's going to look a lot nicer than most survey monkeys that you've seen before. We're really excited about it. I just saw a draft of it today. So we are currently working to pull together some media information about it. So it'll go out through lots of different platforms, including social media and e-blasts and the Oregon City Trail News. But what we're also hoping to do is have you as PAT members promote the Community Vision Forum through your own networks as well, if you are able to or willing. We are going to prepare a little bit of an e-blast, like a little bit of email language, as well as some social media posts that any PAT member is free to use, either send out through your own committees or what have you, any other organizations that we might not be connected to. So please be on the lookout via email. We're going to share a little media packet essentially with you, and you can do what you see fit with it, but it does have some content in case you do want to share the information about the Community Vision Forum through your own networks. Also, the city will be doing an e-blast as well around this next week. So if you want to share that information, you certainly can as well. So that's exciting, and that's coming up. As we are doing, or as this vision forum is live and we're presenting the draft to the community, we're also going to, not yet. We're also going to have a couple of other kind of meetings and work sessions happening throughout the month of June, so we can get this draft statement in front of a lot of different bodies. So I know that there is a citizen involvement committee meeting happening in June where they're going to also read this vision statement. We're also going to be coming to the Planning Commission at a work session to review the statement. So there will be a lot of different bodies that will also be able to review this. And so when we come back to you at the end of June, we're going to bring back all the feedback we got through the forum, as well as all the feedback we got at the CIC and the PC work sessions, and compile all that for you, present to you our suggestions for the changes to the statement, and turn around a revised draft of the vision statement based on that, and your review of all of that feedback that we get on it. So that's kind of the order of operations for the next the next month or so before we meet back together as a group. So I think what I'll do is just to let you know, what we did want to do is, as part of the Community Vision Forum, we were thinking it would be nice to have some sort of audio embedded on the forum where we hear someone or a few of us reading the vision statement out loud, and whether it's just audio or video and audio, whatever it is, we thought it'd be just nice to have some sort of multimedia element as part of the vision statement. So I don't want to put anyone on the spot, and it doesn't have to be tonight, but I would love if there's any volunteers, and I would love like 4, so we can each have one speaking role, to read a section of the vision statement out loud, and we can just record us reading each section, and it would be just 2 minutes or so of our time, and then we would take that recording and post it to the Community Vision Forum. So I would love to recruit participants, and then as a little group we can decide if we want to do it right now or if we want to send out a separate Zoom link and record ourselves at a different time. I see some people have raised hands. Are they questions or volunteers?
Both. I would volunteer to do a read.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you, Denise. Anyone else? Anyone else want to be famous on the Community Vision Forum? Tim, great.
I don't want to be famous, but I'll do a read.
Great.
What do you mean famous?
I'll do it too.
Mike, okay, excellent. One more.
I think Bob was up there. He just couldn't unmute.
Or Ray.
I do a read.
I'm unmuted now, but I wanted to clarify something.
Okay, you're not volunteering.
I think you said that this is scheduled to be on the CIC in June.
Yeah, we were hoping for a presentation, but I understand your agendas are always packed.
Well, I haven't seen even a request for a presentation.
Right.
So yeah, we're usually, for those of you who don't know, I'm the CIC chair, and I form the agenda, and we are pretty packed, but I would like to get a request from somebody.
Okay, I will shoot you a request.
Thank you.
Formally via email.
Thank
Yep.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, we just need one more volunteer, and I heard Ray or Ray Gordon, 2 Rays.
So was it a volunteer to do some voiceover?
It was simply, yeah, to read out loud a portion of the vision statement, and then we would just record ourselves together as a group reading it out loud, and then we'd use the audio recording and embed it on the community vision forum.
Okay, I'd be open to that.
Okay.
Ray 2 can do it. It's 2 Rays.
I'm a little shy though, but I'll
Oh, come on.
The 2 Rays could read it together.
No, good. 2 Rays of wood. That'd be cool.
Okay.
Ray can do it, but she has to sing it.
She got to sing it.
I will follow up with folks that volunteered, and I'm thinking what we'll do is if just check on everybody's availability and see if we can carve out less than 5 minutes at any point tomorrow to just record ourselves reading this out loud. So I will connect with all of you here shortly and see if we can get something together either tomorrow or Friday. Okay, thank you so much. I'm really glad that everyone wanted to volunteer. That was great. So quick overview of our next steps. 7:32. I don't want to keep you a minute past. I just went over the schedule. Looks like we'll be in touch about a CIC agenda item. But generally speaking, there's a lot going on over the course of the next month. And we will be coming back to you at the end of June, on June 30th, with a recap of all of the information and all the feedback we got on the vision statement. I personally don't have any other announcements or final comments, but Pete, I don't know if you do. And I guess before I hand it off to you, Pete,
This
Rochelle,
is there's a question from Rochelle about whether the vision will be in another language. We are going to do you want to go ahead and talk about the statement itself, and then I'll chime in?
No, that I was just going to respond to Rochelle about the translation.
Yep.
So I'll answer Rochelle. We do plan to translate the vision statement into Spanish and then have a Spanish version of the website as well available. We are working right now on translation. The city is assessing their capabilities for translation services right now. So we're just a little bit in limbo right now in terms of the turnaround time needed to translate and the city's capacity to do that. Appreciate it, and we'll know that in the next couple of days if we can pull that off in a timely fashion.
We can.
Great, I like that. Any other final comments or announcements from anyone?
No, great work, everybody. Thanks for the feedback.
I did have one little thing to respond to Richard. I think if you think about what everybody who's in this group, why they're in Oregon City, it has a lot to do with the fact that Oregon City isn't like other cities. And that's really critical because, I've been spending a lot of time in Washington County, and frankly, I can't tell the difference between Beaverton and Tigard and Tualatin, to be honest with you, because there's nothing unique and distinctive. Now, I'm sure my friends over there probably beat the heck out of them. When you arrive here, I know that state slogan, things are different here. Somebody said the topography, we have the only vertical street. There's just so many things that are different that make it unique that are not like other places. And I think that's why a lot of us are here. But what I fear, and this is something because I'm a planner, is that I don't want to see our town turned into what everybody else's town looks like. So we have a hard job of keeping ourselves unique and making sure that we are still distinctly different, because it's so easy to be just like everybody else. That's the easy way. We have the hard job of keeping our uniqueness in Oregon City.
Amen.
So that was my comment to Richard on, you know, how, what that's all about. And that's just my thought.
Well, that was exactly what I was thinking about. What is it that makes us unique and stands out, that draws us, that has us feel like we have a home that is special?
I love it. Thank you all. Great way to end the meeting. All right, everyone, have a great evening. Really appreciate your time on a Wednesday night. So thanks a lot. See you all in a month. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Only nice day.
I know.
Thank you so much.
Bye. I'll be in touch with those that volunteered.